everyone, this is Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and I am here to share with you the Pick a Stick challenge that I did for August 2021. I did this on the LIVEstream show today over on the Art Joy of Sharing LIVEstream channel. We do LIVEstream shows for an hour and a half every Thursday morning over on that channel. Peg Robinson and I do it together, is in support of our group, Art Joy of Sharing Art Community on Facebook. So we always offer these pick a stick challenges every month at the beginning of the month on the 1st. And the rules are that you follow the 6 steps and you do them in order. And there's also 2 colors, and then there's the wild cards that you can replace other ones with. If you get stuck, you can replace a step with a wild card instead. And you can add stuff in between or in, before or after, whatever, but it's a way to get you started and get a little bit of fun with some one-word prompts. Also, we have another challenge going on in August, which I haven't been able to participate very much because I've been very, very sick, but I'm getting a little bit better now, so I'm up and at 'em. And that is the Abstract August. And it's just, I'd love to do abstracts, and it's a thing where you have a prompt and do an abstract every day. The prompt was dip, and so I decided to combine today's dip with the Pick a Stick challenge. So I decided to do an assemblage mixed media project, and the first step was parts. So I decided to get out some chipboard, cut out letters, and spell the word dip. You can use our one-word prompts any way you want. And I didn't actually dip anything into anything else, but I did spell the word, so I think it qualifies. And so I'm gluing on my parts with some heavy, like 3D gel. It happens to be from Art Basics. I got out my Art Basics Finnabar line products today. Actually, what I was inspired by is the colors. These 2 colors, Seafoam and Burnt Sienna, and they reminded me of something that was iron and is rusty and then has a patina on it. You know how sometimes rusty things get that kind of greenish blue color patina over the top when things rust, and I thought coppers and rusts and patina colors. And then I thought, well, I should just do an assemblage and use those colors as part of the process. So I want to make something 3D. I want to use a lot of different little parts and glue them together onto my canvas. This is a 5x7 flat back canvas. Make it raised up, make a lot of texture and interest, and then use the colors over the top. That's kind of how mixed media assemblage goes. You put everything on, and then you paint the color, the background one color, and then you start to add some dry brushing highlight colors, and that was my plan. So I glued on some squares that are from Basil Basics. They're like little chipboard squares because the second one was square. And then the third prompt was weave, and I decided to make a little bit of woven dimensional stuff by using some packaging cardboard and cutting it into strips and then weaving it together. So that's what I'm doing right now. I taped down the first little bits to keep them stuck to my paper, and then I was weaving the other ones in between and making this little woven piece that I plan to put inside the little opening over here of the P, the opening. So I'm trying to get them all stuck down. I should have used glue as I was doing it. I could have made them stick better if I was putting a little bit of glue on each one as I was weaving it, but it worked fine. I needed to have the basic shape, and so I cut off a little piece of my deli paper and cut out the shape of that kind of an oval with a flat side, basically, shape. And now I'm putting some glue on there. I decided to glue this down with some quick drying tacky glue because I needed to try to get all these little woven pieces together and then get them stuck down in that area before they started to come apart. So I'm trying to keep them together. I didn't want a real tight weave. I wanted something like maybe that looked like caning on a chair, sort of. Obviously, it's not in that weave of caning, but you know what it has openings, and so I wanted it to be, I want everything I'm gluing down here on my assemblage piece to be very textural. I want it to have a lot of interest visually because the colors are going to be just, you know, very basic. And so you're gaining the interest in your piece by making everything dimensional and textured and a lot of interest that way. So I've got my little woven piece stuck in there with some quick drying tacky glue so that I can press it in there. One of the little pieces fell off and I had to put it back on, and I maybe didn't get it perfectly stuck in there, but it looks pretty good at the end. And then I made another little piece. If you put something in one area, you should probably put it somewhere else too. And there was a kind of a blank area over by the eye. So I made another little woven thing that's just 4 pieces together. Glued that over on that side, and then I glued a couple of the other little leftover strips of cardboard up at the top in that opening area, just making you know, abstract looking texture and bumpiness on this piece. And this is a lot of fun. I haven't done one of these in a while. Sometimes they're more complex than this, but this definitely satisfied all the steps. So that was weave, and I've got my weaving done. I wanted to add a few more things to it to make it more interesting. So I got out some metal pieces and some pressed air dry clay, some paper flowers, and I guess I started with the flowers and I glued those down with the matte 3D matte gel to add more texture and interest. And then after the paper flowers, I think I pulled out the metal pieces, a few little things. I wanted to do in key and lock. I like key and lock when I do assemblage. I add that on quite a bit. And I found this metal key paper clip that I was going to use. And then some other little metal fasteners and buckles and other like this other square paper clip, bent, you know, metal piece. And I was just trying different things. That square 2/3 of the way down is double height because I put one underneath another and made it twice as high. As I'm actually looking at this piece, I realize that there's an area in there that's not painted. Huh? Need to fix that. And here's my little lock mechanism. It's a metal piece, and then I'm just gluing each thing down by buttering the back of it with this matte gel and then pressing it down with a wet baby wipe. I could not get that little metal key paper clip to stick, and so I ended up pulling out a chipboard one that I had. I think it might be from a sheet from Tim Holtz maybe. It took me a minute to realize I wasn't going to be able to get that to stick in the time. This is during a live stream, and so I have a limited amount of time to fuss with things. I've got to just get it over with. So I pulled out a different little key shape that was chipboard and stuck that down instead. Because that metal, the thin wire, I didn't have enough time to fuss with it to get it to stick down, and I was getting irritated. Then I got out my little jar of, these are molded paper clay and then allowed to dry. Paper clay is an air dry clay. And I have some different silicone molds, and I've pressed the clay in there and then let them dry. There's a little kind of a face and some flowers, and I glued all those around in different places, trying to make my composition balanced by putting things here and there. Still using that 3D matte gel to stick them down. That stuff actually dries pretty quickly. I was looking for my hot glue gun because I thought I wanted real quick drying, and I was going to use the combination of the hot glue gun and the gel medium together because the hot glue sticks immediately and then the gel has time to dry, you know, over time. And I could not find my hot glue gun to save my life this morning. So then the next step when you're doing an assemblage is to paint the whole thing one color, usually with gesso. So I started with this heavy white gesso from Art Basics, and I thought I was going to do white. But then as I looked at it, I changed my mind and I decided to do black gesso instead. So I just went ahead and put the black gesso. You know, it's a good idea to have more than one coat of gesso anyway. So I'm using a fairly stiff flat brush, trying to get in all the little nooks and crannies because I've created a lot of texture and you need to get that gesso in every little space. So you've got to paint it one way, then you paint it the next way, and you get those bristles poked down in there so that you can get everything covered with one coat and make it all one color. And then I needed to get it dry, so I used my heat tool. And once everything is dry, then you start the fun process. The next step was graphite. Now, graphite is a gray color. I mean, you guys know what it is. It's what's inside pencils, right? But it has a little bit of a pearly, sparkly sheen to it. And so I wanted to mix some of this pearl add-in powder to my gray paint to make it look like graphite. So I decided that I would use the wild card pearl along with the step 4 graphite and make this kind of pearly gray color. And I mix those together, and then I'm using a small stiff brush to do some dry brushing over everything. And as you're doing that dry brushing over all your textured pieces, then it starts to highlight the texture and to bring it out. When it's all flat black, you don't see all that texture, but as you start to add different layers of dry brushing, that's when it becomes interesting. And that's what's interesting about these assemblage pieces, these mixed media assemblage pieces, all the texture that you bring out with your layers. So the next layer of dry brushing I did was with this copper paint. It was part of a set that actually gave me the idea to do this in the first place. And then my 2 other paints that came with that set of paints, was supposed to be to make patina, were completely dry. So I only had the copper one left from the set. I've only used them once, I think, and they're already dried out. But I think copper and burnt sienna are similar colors, except for, of course, copper is metallic, right? So then I did get some burnt sienna paint, some burnt sienna acrylic paint, which really, to me, looks like the color of rusted iron. There's even a color named iron oxide, so maybe burnt sienna isn't exactly iron oxide, but it's a very close color to that, I think, that orangey color. So I added that in, mostly on the background to make it look like it was rusted iron. And then I also had this acrylic ink that's called Rusted, and I put a little bit of that on there too because, you know, if you have like a big tank or something, just imagine like a big riveted tank, and it's dark red, and then it has those streaks running down where the water has started to oxidize it, and it has like lighter streaks, and then it has some green streaks. That's kind of what I was going for on this one. So I did some of that rusted acrylic ink on there, and then I did some more of the copper color to do a little bit more highlighting, bringing out the texture. And dry brushing is when you have a stiff paintbrush that's mostly doesn't have paint on it. So you put the paint on it and then you rub it off on your palette to get most of it off, and then what's left is what's getting on the piece and giving you those touches of highlight. So then the next color that I put on is this, it's called Sea Green. Acrylic paint is the name of it, is Sea Green. It's from Hobby Lobby brand Master's Touch. And it's very close to Seafoam Green, although it's a little bit more blue. But it does look like that patina color. And it's also a pastel color. So since the next step was pastel, you could use, of course, a pastel chalk or whatever, but I decided to just take that to mean a pastel color. And I'm using this this to highlight and add some of that oxidization look over the piece. Again with dry brushing. And once I finish that, I feel like I have done enough, all the steps of the Pick a Stick challenge. Happy with that. I did purl instead of doing curl. I couldn't really think of something for curl. So then I felt like I needed some more dark because it didn't have quite enough depth. And so I took my Stabilo All pencil and drew that on in places I thought I needed some more darkness, and then kind of blended that out with a slightly damp paintbrush. And then this last thing I did was to add some bling on here. These are little paper fasteners, brads, and one of them has copper glitter. Another one has glitter that's been sealed inside of epoxy with a edge, and then the other one is like a copper brown colored gem with a gold edge. So I thought that helped finish it off. I glued those on, and that is it for the Pick a Stick challenge. Give me a thumbs up, comment, questions, all those things help my channel grow. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.